Now, it's been a while since I caught up with podcaster, marketing maestro, and friend of BBC Upload, Mr. Liam Taylor. So, I did, a few days ago, with the main aim to uncover tips for making a good podcast. But in case you haven't heard me talking with Liam before, how do you describe what you do, Liam?
It really depends on who I'm talking to. And the thing about BBC Upload is I could be talking to so many different people, so you're going to get the really long version of what I do. My creative background is in music, and I spent 8 years working in music education because I think that is an important background. I tell people, whether it's true or not, that I've been podcasting since before that word existed, which is, I think I can get away with that just about. I say that I'm an internet creative person. If you are someone who I think might pay me for some work, I will say I'm a digital marketer. I might say I'm a content producer. Sometimes I'm a man with opinions on the internet. And you know what? I think that will always be fine.
This is going to sound like a negative question. I don't mean it this way, but do you ever feel like you don't specialise in one thing? You're a bit of a jack of all trades?
Oh, hugely. It's a real pain sometimes. So this is why I have to be really careful that I don't just give the 3-minute version of what it is that I do. And I do try to niche into whatever it is specifically that is, I guess, pertinent to the conversation I'm having. But yeah, the full phrase is jack of all trades, master of none, but better than a master of one. People remember the first half of that phrase.
Forget the last bit.
And they tactfully forget the second bit. But I think I'm a little jealous of some of my friends who I was at college with who got really into something really specific that I still don't fully understand. And I think it's either maths or it's computers, and I'm pretty sure it involves Ethernet cables. Those people are set for life. They have got really well-paying jobs. They are secure. They have families. They have kids. And I'm like, oh, cool. What do I do?
I think everyone's supposed to be where they're supposed to be. It's so easy to compare yourself. And certainly with a creative hat on, it is far too easy to look at what you're doing and think someone else is doing it better, or someone has got to where you are quicker than you got, and what are you doing wrong? And I don't think you're doing anything wrong. Can I say that? I just want to put that on record on BBC Upload. I don't think any one of us is doing something wrong. It's a journey. So can I ask about the Conversation Hat podcast? How did that come about?
It will shock you to learn that there was never a concrete plan about the Conversation Hat. We were never really certain what it is we wanted it to do. Initially, it was going to be an audio sketch show. Oh, like a Fry and Laurie, like a Mitchell Webb kind of audio sketch show. Doing a visual sketch show is my absolute dream. That's something I really, really want to do. And I think I would love to do it, but I'm very aware of how much work that alone would take. So the kind of quickest, cheapest method of doing something like that was doing an audio podcast, because one of the cool things about the internet is it's basically free to do whatever you want, more or less. So I could write a bunch of sketches. I could have some of my good friends and actors and people I know doing the voices, and we could put it together in a podcast and we could publish it. Cool. I spent months working on it, and I had something like 10 sketches that were okay. And I thought, well, that's very nearly an episode. What can I do so that this is more than an episode? And we built what became the Conversation Hat around that. So it became an improvised chat show where you pull questions out of a hat. You do your best to answer them. You don't worry about it too much, or you don't worry about being factually correct too much. You just have a bit of a laugh. And every now and again, there would be a sketch, maybe 2 sketches an episode, maybe a funny piece of music, maybe some weird jingles. And that was the first handful of episodes of the Conversation Hat. And over time, we gradually got rid of the sketches because they took so much time to do, and I'm fine with that.
That's a really key thing for, I think, certainly others who are starting out making a podcast now, to understand that what you make in your first episode will not sound probably anything like your 100th episode. And I hope you get to 100. Don't want you to just do like 3 or 4 and stop, because that's what a lot of people tend to do, is only do a couple.
Yeah. The show has changed an awful lot. And as you say, you should give yourself permission to develop. Sometimes you want to try something out and it doesn't work. Don't be afraid to do that. And one of the recent changes we made actually was we realized that we've got 250 something episodes out currently. We realized that our first 50 episodes, people were going back and starting at number 1, which is a fair enough thing to do. But episode number 1 of the Conversation Hat podcast doesn't represent where we are now.
Yes.
And I would say the 150 episodes, the most recent 150 episodes are so different to those first 50. So what we've done is we've put those behind a paywall. You can go to our Patreon and you can access the first 50 episodes. That is the only way to listen to them, because although I'm proud of them, people were going to listen to episode 1 thinking this is kind of fun, or even worse, thinking, nah, this isn't for me, and then never trying
the rest of it. Yeah.
Yeah, when it's such a different show. If someone listened to episode 260, whatever we're on now, and said, this show isn't for me, my reaction would be, fair enough, buddy, this is what we're doing now, see you later.
Yeah.
You know?
And you're not going to be for everyone.
No.
In the last few months, I've said this quite a bit, and I don't want anyone to misunderstand me, is that you don't have to be something for everyone. I don't think you can make something, whether that's writing a book, a film, a poem, a podcast, a theatre show, anything that everybody is going to like.
I think when you try to make something that appeals to everyone, you're going to end up coming up with something really sloppy. And okay, let me give you an example of comedy. There's some comedians that I really like, some comedians that I really, I was going to say hate, some comedians I really don't enjoy. Comedians are divisive, and that's on purpose. They will make jokes about things that some people find reprehensible. That's on purpose, and they usually do that very early on in their sort of public life, because it's not so much about upsetting people. It's about really clearly stating, this is who I am for, this is the niche that I am going for. If you hear a joke that I make and you don't like it, that's fine. You can go do your other thing. There are plenty of comedians for you elsewhere. And this is what I think, this is one of the many issues we have with the way the internet works, is that divisive things will gain people's attention, and sometimes people are trying to be divisive in order to get attention rather than to niche down on the audience they want. And the other issue is that people think, oh, if I argue with this person, I can turn them around, and that just isn't how anything works. So you just gotta, if you see an opinion on the internet that you don't really agree with, you just gotta leave it. It's not for you. If you interact with it, you'll see more of it. That's how the internet works.
Guest uploader Liam Taylor of the Conversation Hat podcast, sharing insights into finding your voice and your audience, whatever you make. More with Liam after some honourable mentions and this. Now, Liam Taylor is one half of the Conversation Hat podcast and one full guest uploader this week on BBC Upload. We had a chat a few days back about what makes a good and perhaps not so good podcast. Despite our conversation taking many meanders, I did manage to focus us to discuss what Liam knows about podcasts today in 2025 that he didn't know circa 2008.
Your audio show needs to be a video show.
No, it doesn't, Liam. I'm going to argue you. Right, this is the first time I'm going to fall out with a guest.
I wish that was true.
It doesn't need to be.
Okay, fine. I will concede it doesn't need to be a video podcast if, for example, you're not worried about people finding it. And I want to be on the record. I dislike this. I wish that I could just go to a studio once a month with my good friend Ben, talk for 6 hours, and that be the end of it. It isn't. In order to be found, you have to play into whatever the internet ecosphere demands, and regrettably, that is short form portrait format video. You know, it doesn't have to be the end of the world. I found that actually, if I just stick my phone on, this is the first camera we used was just my Google whatever phone. I could just stick that up whilst we were recording and create social like highlights and put them on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, so forth. That was enough to get started. The actual cameras that we use for the Conversation Hat are 18-year-old Canon Handycams, because it was the only thing we could get 3 of without spending literally thousands of pounds. We got 3. I happen to have one already. We got another 2 secondhand. They're okay. you watch our content on Instagram, you'll be like, oh yeah, those are some 18-year-old cameras. But you know, lo-fi music is popular. I'm just going to say that's the vibe we're going for. To actually answer your question, I don't think I ever would have predicted that video would be such a huge part of things, but it just is. It's the way that we relax with the TV on and a phone in our hand, scrolling through TikTok, and maybe something will catch your eye. That's how the world is currently.
So now I need to ask you why you think that has such an impact on the success of a podcast when a lot of people, I would say a vast majority of people who regularly enjoy a podcast or multiple podcasts will only listen to them. Why is it we are so easily drawn in by a 30-second clip, maybe even a 10-second clip of something we see online, to then sit and listen to a 30-minute episode, an hour-long episode, and dare I say it, even 2 or 3 hour long episodes, and there's certainly a few of those around.
Yes, it is human faces is the short answer. If we see a human engaging with something and they're using their face muscles, they're emoting, they're being opinionated, they're being vibrant, we respond to that emotionally, and that's something we want to see more of. We noticed by a huge margin, if we talk about the Lord of the Rings films on a podcast and we make a 30 to 60 second highlight of that video and shove it on TikTok and Instagram, those videos will outperform everything else by at least 30,000 views. We get 1,000 views if we're really, really lucky. If we do something Lord of the Rings based, it outperforms massively. And it is just because there is a large contingent of people who are sort of, I think, our age, who are really inspired by the Peter Jackson Lord of the Rings films that came out 20-something years ago. And they are engaging with the internet in their relaxation time. So when they see some sort of hot take like, why does Frodo shop at M&S and why does Boromir shop at Tesco? Especially taking things like Lord of the Rings and putting them into like contemporary British context, people really respond to that kind of thing. We noticed that niche and we decided, okay, every now and again we're going to dip into Lord of the Rings, and because of the nature of the show, we don't necessarily know what we're going to talk about, but if we can put a few Lord of the Rings questions in the hat, that's going to be helpful to us. But the thing is, if I call the podcast episode "Here's Why Boromir Shops at Tesco's," people are only going to find that if they're already subscribed to the Conversation Hat. But I think the overwhelming majority of people aren't, and I'm trying to solve that, but bear with. And you know what? It really works. We have noticed that when we post a video about the Lord of the Rings and it performs really well, the next day we will have more subscribers to the podcast. So if you can find something that you are nerdily, and I mean just in a usual context, insufferably knowledgeable about, if you have a partner and they have said to you, you need to stop telling my parents about Lord of the Rings, if you've had that conversation, you need to find a way to work that into whatever creative thing you're doing in such a way that you can then put it on TikTok or wherever people are using their relaxation time. It really works.
What are the tricks that good, successful podcasts, and I don't necessarily mean ones that are making loads of money or they've got particularly famous names on them, but just ones that have a loyal following to, what do they do well that keeps people listening?
Oh, there's a couple threads to pull on. The first is consistency. I think I said this one of the first times I chatted with you, Rob. We made a huge mistake in our first year of doing the Conversation Hat, where we released regular episodes and then took a break for 6 months. That was so stupid, we did it the next year. We are only in the last few years back recovering from that huge curve of listeners that we were growing. It was really difficult. So pick a timetable that you can actually stick to. Pick a timetable that if you say, oh, okay, I have a family emergency, or I've hurt my throat and I can't record an episode, you need to be doing it a few in advance. So whatever your release schedule is going to be, keep it consistent, and I'm talking down to the day, if possible down to the hour, so people know, okay, my commute is 7 a.m. Monday morning, my favorite podcast dropped 2 hours ago, we're ready to go, let's get on the tram. This might be controversial. I would say quality of content over quality of audio. Let me shout out the Bugle. Andy Zaltzman is the host. I think he's done the news quiz on BBC Radio 4, I think. Bugle is one of my all-time favorite podcasts. And I mean this with love and affection, Andy Zaltzman and the team. The audio quality is not perfect. It is one of my favorite podcasts because the hosts are consistently really funny. The quality of the conversation is brilliant, and that's why I keep going back to the show, even though every now and again it's a teeny tiny bit janky in terms of the audio quality.
This backs up what I say about not fussing over having a professional microphone or scripting software. Create with what you have, and if the content is good, it will shine. But you can send me copies of it via bbc.co.uk/upload. My guest uploader this week is the podcaster Liam Taylor, who most of the time works as a content producer and digital marketer, which makes him nicely equipped with knowledge and experience ready to decant into your ear canals. Now, we talked about the balance between quality of audio against quality of content, but to add to that, there's also the consideration for how people are going to listen to your work.
When you create something, you cannot predict what the digital platforms are going to do to it. If I release a piece of audio, a piece of music, for example, it is going to sound different on Spotify. It's going to sound different on Deezer, Amazon, Apple, YouTube, just because of how each platform prioritizes different elements of it and compresses it in such a way that you can stream it immediately. That's the sacrifice. So actually there's almost, this is controversial, there's almost no point in mastering your songs, I'm sorry, because you don't know where it's going to go and what it's going to sound like. So why bother, right? Write a good song. I'm sorry.
Don't apologise.
I'm sorry, but I really believe that.
Don't apologise. I think that anyone who's certainly pursued a creative outlet for a while and is taking it seriously, maybe trying to turn it into some sort of income, maybe it's your full-time job, I think we'll all understand that. No one wants to accept that's true, Liam. I think, and I don't want to side with any one particular opinion on it because I think there's a mixed conversation to be had, but I would appreciate that as well. I appreciate that. I don't want to agree that podcasting needs that video element. But the fact of the matter is, the most successful ones, or certainly the ones that have grown the quickest over the last couple of years, have been the ones with the best short clips that can go viral online and be shared by more people. But I think very much underneath all of this, there's been an appreciation for if you make good content, you will get listens, you will find your tribe.
Yes. I think going back to the Lord of the Rings very briefly, when we say good content, I think it's important to specify that if you are super passionate about something, not necessarily super knowledgeable about it, but if you're super passionate about something and you get talking about it, you will make good content.
Is there another podcast out there, you mentioned the Bugle, but one which you enjoy for an unusual reason?
Oh, that's a weird question. I'm just thinking about what I listen to. So I like the Aunty Donna podcast. I'm a big fan of Aunty Donna just because it is unadulterated chaos. I think they have a very high quality recording environment, and I think the shows feel very much improvised. I think they might have a 5-minute chat around, okay, we're going to do this thing where I'm this character and you guys hate me. Let's record. What else do I listen to? Okay, one of the reasons I really like the Bugle is because it reminds me that I'm not alone. And let's not get into who's right and wrong in this very complicated world we live in. It reminds me that I'm not the only one thinking certain things about the way the world is. It reminds me that a lot of what is going on in the world is very silly and absolutely should be the point of ridicule. That's the main reason I keep going back to the Bugle, because it's funny. There are other shows that do a very similar thing. A culty true crime podcast, Last Podcast on the Left, is another one that I really like. Again, the people are very personable and they remind me that I'm not alone in the world, even though the topics they discuss are just really hideous. But that's fine because they're fun. They're fun to listen to and they remind me that I'm not alone. So I think what I'm getting at when I say that is it's about finding your tribe and really doubling down and niching down into that tribe. I think if I saw the world through a different lens, I wouldn't listen to the same podcasts.
I actually predicted before we started speaking that you would use examples that backed up what I'm about to say. And the key to any good podcast or story or play or even a song is connection. If you can connect with your audience through what you are saying, then you're doing it right. And if you're not connecting with an audience, if you don't feel like you're getting that back and forth, perhaps look at what it is you're trying to say. Maybe you're not saying it the right way. Perhaps the format's wrong. You know, I'm not trying to tell you whether you are right or wrong, but sit back and maybe look at it from a different angle, different perspective, because you never know. That's the reason people gravitate to certain things. There's connection. And it goes back to the, thousands of years of us storytelling around campfires. If you connect with the story, you listen. And that's why some stories last centuries and others last 5.5 minutes. Liam, thank you so much for sharing. I appreciate it. Every time we chat, we always go off in different tangents. But again, back to what we said early on, it's part of the evolution of conversation. You never really know where it's going to end up or what kind of meanders it may take. But I always really appreciate getting to talk to creatives like yourself who've done it for a while, who are making it your kind of passion, your career. Because I know so many other people out there they desperately want to, but just don't know how. And I hope sometimes we just answer a few of those questions, which make it a little easier to get started, because that's all I really want from BBC Upload as a show, as a platform, is to encourage more people just to give something a try. Write that book, make that podcast, go and learn to dance the tango. Whatever it is you have in you that you really want to do, go and do it. You might be rubbish, but you also might be the world's best person at it. And until you try, you're not going to know. Where can we find the Conversation Hat online?
Conversation Hat, it's very easy to find if you go to your favourite podcast app. I believe we're on all of them. Conversation Hat Podcast. It's got a kind of pink and purple logo. You'll see it. The logo says the Conversation Hat Podcast. On the social platforms, it's at Convo Hat Podcast. If you want to find me, I'm at LT Guitarist on all the places one might expect to find a person. That was vague.
Podcaster Liam Taylor, my guest uploader this week. A huge thank you for his time and shared knowledge. We will grow a thriving arts community if we stick together and share our experiences with each other. And to give you a flavour for Liam's podcast.